Good afternoon. My name's Chelsea. I am the Director of Programs with Women Voices Now, and it is my honor to be joining you all today for this event as part of our 10th annual Women's Voices Now Film Festival. Today's event is our industry panel focused on bringing resources and support to our filmmaking audience around the globe. We know documentary storytelling is built on critical foundations of truth, empathy, and connection. With AI, synthetic media, and technology becoming more widely accessible and rapidly transforming the landscape, we know there is much for storytellers to be thinking through. Today, we are so pleased to have filmmaker Sarah Moshman and media technologist with Witness, Shirin Anlen, here to discuss these emerging technologies. And I will be inviting them on stage in just a moment to begin that conversation. But first, we want to also invite you to take part in the rest of our film festival. The Women's Voices Now Film Festival takes place online annually. We are in our 10th cycle this year. And filmmakers and audience members from around the world have an opportunity to access tickets and the films as part of our official selection. This year, we are pleased to have more than 40 films representing countries from every corner of this beautiful planet with us, showcasing stories about women's rights, struggles, and our victories from all across the world. Our theme this year is the unintended consequences of our progress. And we know that as we keep this movement for women's rights changing and transforming the way our cultures and communities see us as women, with it, the opportunities for storytelling transformation come as well. And I'm now very excited to invite Sarah and Shirin onto the stage to share with you the future of filmmaking as it relates to these technologies. Thank you both so much for spending your time with us, and I'm very looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks, Chelsea. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you to Women's Voices Now Festival for having us. I'm really honored to be a part of this conversation. I think so many of us filmmakers think about AI. It's in our periphery, it's in the forefront, and above all else, it's expanding at such an exponential rate. So conversation today hopefully will shine a little bit more light on the ways that AI can be used to our benefit instead of to our threat. So I'm really honored to be joined by Shirin Anlen today, a media technologist. Welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. So great to be here.
So why don't you tell us just a little bit about your background and about Witness and what led you to work at Witness?
Sure. So my background is in creative technologist. I worked in the interactive documentary field for a while. I worked with VR, AR, machine learning to design interactive storytelling led by real life stories, from VR to web to immersive theater. There was a point in my work that I felt like I want to really explore more the impact of the technology that I'm using. I felt that the conversations were more to the same people, less global impact. And so I started to look for my next thing, which came in the form of Witness. And I joined Witness 2 years ago, but Witness is a 30+ year organization, a human rights organization, sit globally across the 5 continents. We have teams in 5 continents, US, Latin America, West Africa, Southeast Asia, sometimes Europe as well, depends on the situations. And our main mission is how we can use video and new technology to defend and protect human rights, understanding the power of stories, the power of evidence that can shed light on things that without that will not lead to any change. And also how we need to develop the technology in a just way in order to defend and protect our rights. So that's in general about Witness and me.
Wow. Well, that sounds so exciting and just nuanced in all of the ways you could use that technology. And what is Witness working on related to filmmaking or filmmakers? Like what can we learn as filmmakers about what Witness is doing that maybe people could apply to their projects?
Yeah, so Witness used to develop more content. In the latest year, we shift our work more to training communities how to document violation, document their stories. which is very interesting when we think about 30 years of progress in the organization, is from Handycam to iPhone to phones to live stream. So what does it mean? What do you need to take into consideration when you want to prove that event is a happen, when you want to document something? And so there are a lot of ways we are doing that in Witness. I specifically work in a team that is named Technology Threats and Opportunities, when we are taking local communities' feedback around how technology is shaping and affecting their lives, and we are voicing that to policymaker, regulators, and the AI and companies, tech companies. I think how it's related to filmmaker is more around how we are thinking about stories, how we are thinking about truth telling, how we are thinking about ethical making of content. So that's where we're really focusing in Witness. And there might be points that related to other types of storytelling.
Yeah, as you're talking, it's like, how do we apply that technology to a documentary? Is it handing a camera to our participants more so than being, as a filmmaker, as objective as we may want to be? There's so much subjectivity in every decision and what lens we use and what question we ask and how we edit it together. There's just inherently some biases and privileges and lenses applied to any story. Do you think that we could be more objective, unbiased if we're handing this technology to our participants? Is that sort of the idea?
I think co-creation is really in the essence of Witness. We really want to be led by the partners that we are working with, where they are, what they care, what their story is, less than what we feel the advocacy point should be. So that's, I think, a really leading point for us. It's hard to let go of your own biases, your own point
Yeah.
of view, and sometimes you know what is needed in order to communicate the story better, right? But how do you do that together? How you establish a partnership that the voices are included and not are taking over, like
Advantage
voicing
of,
over them.
yeah. That ethical side of filmmaking, I think, is on the forefront of so many filmmakers. I don't know if you heard of that documentary Subject, but it explored a lot of this. It's like, where does the filmmaker end and the participant begin, and how do you tell a very honest, objective story? Is that even possible? But it sounds like also with this technology, we can, as you were saying in the beginning, I have found, like, I made a documentary about sexual harassment in the workplace, for example, and my goal at the beginning was, I don't want to preach to the choir. I don't want to just share this with people who already agree. So is there a way that you feel like this technology will help us as filmmakers not just share our work with the people that already agree with that, with social impact of that issue, let's say? Just curious if you have any thoughts on that. Like, could this technology help us widen our reach in terms of audience too?
That's interesting. Like when you say this technology, you mean AI technology, how
Yes,
AI can
yeah.
help us grow our outreach. I think it's the opportunities of accessibility to new creation, like new creative tools, uh, speeding up productions that could be very costly. And those are the type of things that AI might help in order to expand the outreach of the creation or the possibility of co-creation, right?
Yeah.
For new audience, there are a lot of like examples for translations, right? So like how maybe that can be used in order to meet the audience in their own mother tongue, and how that will shape stories. That could be an interesting questions too. Yeah, there is a lot of problem. While I'm saying that, I'm thinking about how that language is being developed and trained, and what the sources of the training data that is like kind of like restricting that to maybe male type of voices and not all female voices, right? Depending like how well the data was curated in the backend in order to enrich the language. But on the surface, that could be a
On
good
a basic level, yeah. That's important though, to think through every piece of the puzzle. I love that. So
yeah.
what's getting you excited these days, and what's keeping you up at night? Like, what's worrying you and what's exciting you about AI?
What keeping me at 9? Like I'm a new mom, so that's what keep me.
Oh, yay, me too.
But thank you. But So at Witness, we are looking at the synthetic media, generative AI, and AI in different ways. So we are looking at opportunities and how we can use AI to support human rights advocacy, to support storytelling. And there are a lot of, like we said, accessibility, translation could be a very interesting element there. There are other types of experimentation we did that I'm very excited about, like how you use that to protect identity. So there is a great documentary, Welcome to Chechnya, which I really recommend seeing. And they use deepfake to digitally disguise the subject so they can tell their story without putting them at risk. And the technology really allowed not to just create like animation on them on different known techniques for like blurring pixels, right? That takes the humanity out of the subject, but swapping their face with someone else's face still allow the eyes to stay, still allow the humanity of the character and their story to come through. So I think those types of experimentation are so interesting and are so exciting in the way that we can like promote voices, bring more people to the to the front, telling their stories in their own voice or voice cloning them so they won't be um, uh, recognized. For example, another experimentations, I think, around places that we cannot visit. Like we did experimentation thinking about migration centers, which there's not good footage that's coming out of those places, but a lot of testimonies that describing the way those places are being designed on not for human life, right? Not for so how we can use AI to visualize, to enter, to think about those places, to really communicate what's going on there. So I think there are so many amazing ways to tell stories with AI. What keeps me in mind is that's the other part of our work with Witness, which is the threats part. We look a lot about how we're dealing with consent. Deepfake and generative AI is targeting most of the content comes targeting non-consensual sexual imagery, mostly against women. So that's something how we are, even if I'm labeling that it's a deep fake of women, like we saw with Taylor Swift, for example, not so long ago, it doesn't really matter. The reputation and the especially in different types of society can be a really life threatening risks. How are we looking at disclaimers? How are we looking at labeling? How are we looking at consent? How are we looking at when we have real evidence, we are not trying to visualize a new type of AI generate to replace those evidence, but how are we protecting the truth? How are we protecting the stories? Yeah, so that's I wouldn't say keep me in mind, but keep me at night is the incentive to develop the technology in a just way. There are not a lot of incentives, and we are the technology is being in the force of economical forces.
Right, profit driven. Well, how will it work with the deepfake? That's so interesting that you say that. So what you're saying is if you want to interview someone who prefers to be anonymous for their safety, for their preference, you would then apply someone else's face, you're saying, to their body. Would the audience know that that's happening? Would there be some sort of watermark or disclaimer? Like what would be the requirement for the audience to know that this is not, would it be able to tell? Like that's exciting and also very concerning, right? Because you could put anyone's face on anyone's body forevermore for any purpose then. And yeah, if you could just talk a little bit more about how that would actually function. Because I like the idea of that. Instead of a blurred face, you still get the emotional quality of someone's delivery and their experience, but to what end, or then is that technology going to be taken advantage of, as you're saying?
That's a really great point. Like how you disclose to your audience what technology you used, right? And there are like it's a main focus of ours. How you also not doing that in a way that is not the main fear of filmmaker and storytellers or artists. How you doing that without taking the artistic integrity out, right? How if I'm putting a label on my film, like for the entire film, how can I actually do that? And then if I'm putting that only in the starting credit or ending credit, will anyone even notice that?
Yeah.
But there are really amazing, like the creative opportunities are also in the disclaimer itself, in the labeling itself. So, for example, what I really love about the project Welcome to Chechnya, the way they disclosed it to you, they left a really subtle halo around that face. So you always kind of been reminded that it's a mask. And I
Okay.
think it communicates so well also the story because it's communicate the risk those people are taking to tell their stories and the need to disguise themselves constantly. So I think there are so many creative opportunity with the way you decide to disclose something. Um, it doesn't need just to be like here AI generated label.
Yeah.
Um, there are like even Kendrick Lamar, it is an amazing video clip. He morphed to different people as he in the video clip, but his choreography was kind of like communicating that. So maybe something about your body language, the voice, the digital effect
Yeah.
that you.
Wow. I mean, it's like that's such an exciting superpower that one would have, but it's also then it makes me just think about accessibility. Would every filmmaker have that ability at some point, which is exciting but also scary because everything you're saying sounds really lovely and ethical and like and the right way to do it, and yet a lot of people won't utilize it that way. So it scares, I think, people in terms of everyday use, but also filmmakers of what is truth anymore, like what image that we see on the internet is real. And I think we're already seeing that in real time with around these global conflicts happening. You see a terrifying image and you're impacted by it, and then what if you find out the next day it wasn't real, it was someone else's head or body, or the setting was manipulated, but you still had the emotional impact of seeing that image and it affected you. It's exciting, but also opens up this whole other category of fears. And we know that people will take advantage of this technology. They already are. So it's, yeah, I can imagine for you that for Witness, for anyone working in this field, there's that constant like push and pull of like, we want to get ahead of it and use the technology for good, but also knowing that when you release this ability, that people will use it for the wrong reasons or for, in a more exploitative way. So, but then I think about how like, I often think about the iPhone, right? Like just because everyone has an iPhone in their pocket, in certain countries, parts of the world, doesn't mean that cinematographers don't have a job, right? We can all take a decent picture, but there's still a whole world out there of artistry for a cinematographer to come in and use a better camera and a real lens and all of that. So that's what comforts me is like, I'm like, okay, as a filmmaker, I have to believe there will be a role for me moving forward and being an empathetic storyteller and asking those right, emotional, intelligent questions in the moment, but it is keeping me up at night when I think about AI too much. Like, how is it accelerating and unfolding at this pace that none of us could ever keep up
Mm,
with? So there isn't really a question here, but more just like commiserating with you that this is complicated.
it
um,
is.
is there anything
Yeah.
you wish filmmakers would know, or is there anything you want to communicate wider to what you're seeing? Because you're kind of on the forefront of this with Witness. What are some of the tools that you're using that you wish more filmmakers knew about or would embrace, or a piece of advice you might have for filmmakers in terms of looking ahead to the next year, 5 years, as we know this technology of AI is accelerating such a rapid pace. So is there anything you want us to know?
Wow, I don't know what I know. It's like you're saying it's
Yeah, you're like,
developing
I haven't even
so.
stopped to figure out what I know yet.
No, I mean like it's so fast, like you're saying. So it's like unlike other types of technology that it's true the iPhone or Photoshop or After Effects affected the way we
Yeah,
are designing stories or thinking about stories, but it did not replace, right? And they always said that also with the TV and the cinema, people will not watch TV when they had the cinema, whatever it was
yeah,
there.
yeah.
And it was not true because like at the end of the day, it's the stories that matter. At the end of the day, it's how you tell the story. And AI cannot tell a good story. It can maybe create those types of elements that are blockbusters or whatever, but it's not the human drive, right? It's not the human motivation behind it. But um I think what like unlike the other technologies, what we're saying is so right. It's happening so fast and it's changing something so fast. And the way it's undermined um truth content, it's it has a real psychology effect that we still don't understand. And we
Yeah.
don't understand how we are maybe it's changing and shaping the way we are viewing stories right now and what we need from stories. Maybe it's also changing the way that we need to approach the creation of the stories. When we are talking about labeling and disclosure, what does it actually mean for me to add those types of layers to my story as I'm scripting it, and not just as like an after effect, after post-production type of a stamp, but really like communicating maybe something that is going on right now. It's so deep in the way we are approaching content that I don't think we still understand what is actually. I mean, we do see it like research around different conflict that we really don't believe anything anymore. But
Yeah.
I think we are still missing the part of the long-term effect of that as us as a society that engage with story, which is so basic for us as human beings.
Yeah, and then there's the job side of it, right? It's like we're worried about losing our jobs, and that was a huge part of the writer's strike was if these companies are able to use AI, then they could crank out a script, even a first draft. That's perhaps many jobs of people that weren't able to earn income because this technology forced this script was already written, in some form. So it's exciting, but it's also how do we utilize that technology and not lose our jobs in the process? Do you find, are there more jobs being created because of this technology?
I'm not in the labor field, but I am finding that like when I'm looking at the history of how things were developed, copyright law was one of the first laws that really changed the way we are thinking about authenticity of content, watermarking. And so when we're thinking about copyrights for when we're using different types of data to script, right? We need to feed those model scripts of good human beings and then let the AI generate a new script. So how we are protecting those rights? What does it mean? And I think the strike and the fight that is being done is going to protect jobs. It's going to protect the integrity of content as we are continue the fight in like finding the right way to integrate that in the workflow. Yeah, but I don't know about like I believe like jobs is for some reason we are so obsessed with jobs. I think we will always have a job
At
to
least
do.
in America, yes. We're like, how
Uh,
does this affect me? Well,
yeah, we need to be obsessed with how we have more time to go to the beach, but it's
yes. I just saw a meme yesterday that was like, I think AI is going in the wrong direction. Why is it like it's taking my ability to be a writer so that I can go do my laundry? It's like I need AI to do my laundry so I can be a writer. It's like that's
exactly.
it. How can we make sure it makes our lives easier for the tasks that we don't want to complete rather than taking the creativity of being a filmmaker, being a writer, et cetera, et cetera. So the implications of this are because it's so accelerated, it can be scary. But I
Yeah.
love hearing about what Witness is doing because it is exciting. It does feel like, oh, there could be a whole new set of tools for us as filmmakers that hopefully people will use ethically. And we need to put the right, legislation perhaps in place or copyright laws or, labor laws so
Yeah, but I
that we
think
can
all
all
those
benefit.
exactly, and we have to do that when the technology is developing. But it's true, it's happening so fast, but we have to get involved right now. We have to test those tools to see when it's not working, when there are biases that is being generated, when there are rights that are being stolen. So we have to get involved in order to really voice the concern and make sure the technology is being developed in the right way. As much as possible, right? Because the incentive and the economic and all that, but still that's the point to, and After Effect will be really hard to do. So it's really good that it's happening right now. Also because it's so fast, it's worrying so much and it's not like caught me while I was sleeping. It's more, we are awake. We are ready.
So what do you see for the future? And by the future, I could mean next week when it comes to AI. What do you see for the next 6 months, year? Like any closing thoughts or pieces of advice, or just what are you seeing since you're part of this sort of new wave? How can we kind of wrap up our lovely conversation, but also think a little bit towards the near future? What are you seeing?
So because I'm in a very specific niche, I'm seeing how the global election is happening all over, really shaping the conversation around AI for the threats, the fear of not believing content, from the deepfake of politicians, from affecting putting democracy at risk. So I'm seeing how those conversations create incentive for government, for regulator to kind of get involved and put more effect. So I see that could be a really big year for AI also in the way we are shaping the technology. I see new tools coming up like text to video, which is exciting. You can just write a prompt and get a 60-second video, which is pretty awesome, but also scary from all the reasons we are talking about. But for sure, what we know that it's going to progress a lot. And what will happen in 6 months or a year will be a whole new set of tools that what we are using today will not, like for the AI, will not look good, and then we will have new tools that will yeah, I don't know, it's hard. No one knows what happened in a week, so it's really hard.
It must be how people felt with the internet. What is this internet thing? Like, is it going to be a fad? Is it going to, I'm still going to keep my phone book,
Yeah.
but it just is happening so fast. But it must be what people felt, 30 years ago. Like, what is this internet thing? Maybe it won't last, but it's about embracing it and finding a new normal. But so thank you so much for your insight and your time. And it's exciting to know that people like you are on the forefront of this, and Witness sounds like such an incredible organization working towards, storytelling tools and evidence, and hopefully creating a more just world. So thank you so much. It's so lovely to meet you. And I'll toss it back to Chelsea at Women's Voices Now to wrap us up.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both. This has been an extremely important and insightful conversation, and I'm really grateful that you were both here to share it. I think it's incredible too that technology is not just a conversation that men are having in a room trying to give us these tools, but women are centered into the discussions, trying to figure out what ethics and morality look like through our eyes. And I think that's going to help really inform the future of this as well. So I'm just really grateful for you both for being here. And as we close this conversation out today, I just want to uplift a little bit more information about the film festival, because we're really anything unlike your typical film festival. We host a selection of documentary films made by women and about women from around the globe. As I said already, this year's theme, The Unintended Consequences of Our Progress, helps us illuminate just how far we've come in this global struggle for women's rights and what this new threshold of progress has really meant for us in terms of the new challenges that we face. We have more than 40 films from around the globe, countries including Afghanistan, Ireland, Israel, France, South Sudan, Netherlands, Bangladesh, Costa Rica. It's a really incredible global selection. And in order for you to access them, we have tickets available, and the films are available online and on demand through the entire month of April. I will be putting a ticket code up on just before we close out the screen today. But I also want to say that as part of our festival, we give out $13,500 in cash prizes, as well as 8 specific filmmaking awards. So on April 25th, you'll have an opportunity to join us live for our award ceremony as we give out those awards, and also recognize our annual Women Making Waves awardee. I just will close by saying this festival would not be possible without the support of our sponsors and donors, and truly the global filmmaking community and the community of advocates who understand how important film is as a tool for social change. That's what we're all about here at Women's Voices Now, using film to have conversations like this about the world that we can imagine and create together. So just thank you all for being a part of our 10th annual festival run. We're so excited. And again, I'll pull up some information on the screen as we close out and just say thanks again to our fabulous speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.